Joining us now, Massachusetts senior senator, Democrat Elizabeth Warren. She is the author of the new book, This Fight is Our Fight, The Battle to Save America's Middle Class. Senator, thank you very much for joining us tonight on this another very important news night. And I want to begin in reverse order of the way the news broke today. Elijah Cummings revealing in a letter that he believes that Michael Flynn did not tell the truth on his 2016 background check for his security clearance, and that could be a felony. Yeah.
And this is all the more reason, it seems to me, that we need both this independent criminal investigation, but also we need investigation in Congress. And I applaud what Congressman Cummings is up to here, because we're talking about national security issues. And that's Congress's responsibility to get to the bottom of what happened here, to get to the bottom of what Flynn did, and to make sure that this never happens again in this country. That's why we have these investigations. So I want them to stay after it.
Well, one of the investigations, of course, your colleagues in the Senate and the Intelligence Committee discovered today that Michael Flynn is refusing to comply with a documents subpoena, invoking his Fifth Amendment protections on that. But as a law professor, I think you can clarify for us that the Fifth Amendment protections are not as strong on documents as they are on your own testimony. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And it's he's trying to claim blanket. Any document I have that's covered by the request here is Fifth Amendment. And the answer, I think, will be, and I think this is what counsel will advise, that wait, you got to sort that out and you got to pick which parts you want to claim have Fifth Amendment protection and whether or not that protection has already been waived. So I think there's a lot going on here. But remember, there's a second part to this too. And what I think should happen soon is that he may receive a personal subpoena to come in and to testify under oath. Now, he's entitled to take the Fifth Amendment under those circumstances, but that means he really has to do it out in public, where he's not only looking at the members of the United States Senate when he does it, but also at the people of the United States and say, I spent my entire career in the military, I rose to the rank of general, and now I have to take the Fifth Amendment on a question of my connections with Russia. That's a pretty strong dose of medicine for the American people to take, and I think that we ought to be able to look at Michael Flynn when he does it, if that's what he's going to do.
And one of the elements that Elijah Cummings is talking about is the part of the background check that asks about, have you had any contact with foreign officials? He said he didn't, and we have the photograph of him sitting beside Vladimir Putin at dinner, a dinner paid for by Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. Now, I mean, this is just astonishing. It's, we often talk about it in an investigation. You pull a thread and, where does it go? This one just keeps on coming. And the number of lies seem to be stacking up here.
Senator, I want to talk to you about a moment today in Israel where the president, unprovoked, without being faced with any question, decided to just turn to the media and say, I never said the word Israel when I was discussing that information, the classified information, with the Russians in the Oval Office. I'd like to get your reaction to that, because this is one of the issues that when you were campaigning for Hillary Clinton, that was very much front and center about, could this man conduct even the basic elements of the presidency on a day-to-day basis?
This really is just stunning. So, first of all, Donald Trump reveals these secrets to the Russians, and then later today turns around and says, and I didn't point out that the information came from you. I never said that. And the question then becomes, how do we protect ourselves from our own president? How do we protect intelligence? How do we protect our allies? Since Donald Trump seems determined to think of no one except Donald Trump, first, last, and every moment in between.
I want to get to the Trump budget that came out today.
Yeah.
And I want to go to something that Mike Mulvaney, budget director, said about it today. Let's listen to that.
We are no longer going to measure compassion by the number of programs or the number of people on those programs. We're going to measure compassion and success by the number of people we help get off of those programs to get back in charge of their own lives.
I'd like to get your reaction to that.
You know, this is just stunning. Pieces are coming out right now of this budget. And so somehow, you know, it appears that their view of compassion is that we make sure that we can knock 24 million people off health care coverage, that we take the legs out from underneath Medicaid, which one of the principal users are seniors who are in nursing homes, who otherwise have no alternatives and no way to pay for nursing home care. And that somehow he thinks he's going to get in front of that with a statement about compassion. This really is. This is beyond farce. And this budget, I just want to say about this, because we're getting bits and pieces of it, looking at it in advance. You look at things like what they want to do to education, that Betsy DeVos and Donald Trump now propose about an $11 billion cut to public education. And among the programs that they just want to cut out any federal help for are things like AP classes, foreign languages, physical education, even support for the Special Olympics. That they just think, no, let's zero all of those out. And for young people who are trying to go to college, they want to take the whole loan forgiveness program that's there for people who've decided to go into public service, who've said, I'm going to work for a lower paying job in public service, and the American taxpayers have said, okay, we'll do a little loan forgiveness to help you pay your college debts off. No, zero that program out. Take good programs like Gear Up and TRIO that help students get into college and make it through college. Kids who might not have otherwise had that chance. Zero that program out. Increase the cost of student loans for low-income students. It's like one punch in the face after another to hardworking people, to people who are trying to make something of their lives. If these guys really did believe in opportunity, if these guys really did believe in helping people build their own futures, then they'd be doubling the funding in programs like this, not trying to take the legs out from underneath it. Let's be clear. What these guys really want to do is, yeah, they want to slash and burn in these programs. But the reason for that is so they can produce tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. Look at this so-called health care plan. It's not a health care plan. It's a tax cut plan. Knock 24 million people off health care, raise costs for middle-class families, increase costs for people over 50, open the door to discrimination against people with pre-existing conditions and people with mental health issues and people with opioid addiction problems, and do all that for what reason? In order to produce a tax break for a handful of millionaires and billionaires. Donald Trump is making clear who he wants to run this government for on steroids, and the answer is for the rich and powerful, and kick everybody else in the teeth. That's what this is all about.
What is the effect of all of this Russian influence scandal in terms of the Trump agenda in Congress? Is it creating kind of a legislative smokescreen where this unpopular agenda actually has a better chance of advancing, or is it just gumming up the works and nothing has a real chance of advancing?
No, I'm actually very concerned. Keep in mind, the House went ahead and passed this horrible health care bill, moved it over to the Senate, and right now, behind closed doors, the folks in the Republicans in the United States Senate are actively negotiating what kind of a health care bill can they get out and then spring on the American people and see if they can ram it through before people actually understand what's in it and really push back on it. That's where they are right now, and we all have to be on alert. And that's all happening while all of the Russia stuff continues to go forward. So now we've got Russia, we've got healthcare, and we've now got the budget rolling in. Now, the Republicans in Washington are still advancing the Trump agenda more so than ever.
You get the feeling from time to time that the Trump administration is in a competition for who among them is the most oblivious. And today, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross stepped up with what seems like the most oblivious comment of the day. Let's listen to that.
The other thing that was fascinating to me, there was not a single hint of a protester anywhere there during the whole time we were there. Not one guy with a bad placard. Instead,
but Secretary Ross, that may be not necessarily because they don't have those feelings there, but because they control people and don't allow them to come and express their feelings quite the same as we do here.
In theory, that could be true, but boy, there was certainly no sign of it. There was not a single effort at any incursion. There wasn't anything.
Senator, give us a last word reaction on Wilbur Ross.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he apparently thought that was a perfectly reasonable answer until his interviewer pointed out to him that he was in the Saudi dictatorship for the day, and it doesn't work like it works here.
You know, how many times will these people have to hand bouquets to those who don't support a free press and active engagement and the opportunity to get out and speak your mind about politics? It's part of what goes on here is it really is the case that you wonder, do these folks just live in a bubble and the only people they talk to are other rich people or people who say yes to them? Do they not have any sense of what's going on in our own country or anywhere else around the world? You know, I really am worried about, it's not just what Trump is doing when he's overseas and the people who go with him. It's like we were talking about earlier. It's everything is continuing to move forward in the United States Congress, that the Republicans are ready. You know, let's get our plan together so we can knock more people off health care and produce another tax break for millionaires and billionaires so that we can roll out a budget that's going to take the legs out from underneath people who rely on help from the rest of us to be able to pay their nursing home bills, but also take out the legs from underneath public education, from the things that we do together to build a better country. One of the things I talk about in the book, you mentioned the book at the top of this, why this fight is our fight, is to talk about the long arc of what's happened in America. You know, 1935, coming out of the Great Depression, we decided we could build something better together. And we put regulations in place, a cop on the beat on Wall Street. We broke up the biggest financial institutions with Glass-Steagall. We went for a level playing field. And the other thing we did was progressive taxation. We taxed those at the top and we made those investments in education, in infrastructure, in basic research. And it worked. We built the greatest middle class on the face of the earth. We built opportunities for more and more and more Americans. And now, since the 1980s, Ronald Reagan trickled down economics, fire the cop on Wall Street, let the big banks do whatever they want to do, and cut taxes for those at the top. Cut them for those at the top, and then that means make those cuts in education, make those cuts in infrastructure, make those cuts in basic research. Notice, one of the other things in the budget, they want to slash the National Institutes of Health, the place that does medical research for all of us. Make all those cuts. And why? So that the guys at the top can get richer and everybody else gets left behind. And now, Donald Trump is taking what Republicans have done for a generation, and he's just put it on steroids. He's just doing it all at high volume. And America's middle class, America's working families, cannot sustain one punch after another from the Trump administration. This is a time of real danger for families in our country.
The book is The Fight Is Our Fight. It is a personal piece. There's a memoir inside that book about government policy. Yeah. Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.